I'm Theron, Ramacharaka. In 1979, I researched and wrote a paper, published, circulated in New York City, called Natural Protection Against Radiation, Poisoning, and Exposure. I was very interested and very concerned about the topic because I grew up 25 miles from 3 Mile Island in Middletown, Pennsylvania. If you don't remember that, or you don't know about 3 Mile Island, otherwise known as TMI, the nuclear power plant that either very nearly melted down or did melt down. I'm not sure which is the case, but I got out of the area. I moved to New York City when that happened. I got away, and I was very disturbed by the incident and became curious about what I could do to help myself and my own body and other people's physical bodies protect themselves against radioactive particles, radioactive elements, and cleanse the body, physical bodies, with respect to radioactive elements. What natural things could be done. So this, of course, would involve what things can be ingested to help rid the body, cleanse the body of radioactive particles, as well as protect the body against them. I would say that almost all the material in this paper is as true now as it was in 1979. There may be a few details that are a little outdated. There may be some situations that are not quite as serious now as they were then, such as some material about X-rays, and there are probably some states of affairs that are worse now than they were in 1979. I'm going to read the paper to you as it is. Now, also here in my channel, in this playlist called Personal Evolution Part 3, you will find another video, the title of which includes the word nourishment. It should be considered that this video now, this current one, goes along with it, or is, let's say, sister to it, because there are some principles. There's a principle in that nourishment video that is a somewhat different thing than just being about food and diet, but it has to do with how food is ingested, the attitude about it, the kinds of thoughts that go along with it that correspond with maximizing nourishment, proper use of attention, a specific way to go about ingesting food that involves maximizing absorption of food prana. There's mental imagery to go with it to assist in the job of food and the job of ingestion and digestion and chewing and so forth for maximum nourishment and prana and nourishment consumption and usage. Okay, there are various tools of mentalism, as well as the physical act of eating, to be done in certain ways, right, in specific combinations, the hints about which are found in that video, the title of which includes the word nourishment, okay, to be applied here with this information, okay? So consider this video to be sister to the other one. I don't want to have to repeat all of that information here in this video. So consider these two to be sister. Okay, apply the principles, the esoteric, let's say, principles in that other video to this one as well. All right, enough said about that. All right, here comes the eyeball reflection. My glasses. Natural protection against radiation poisoning and exposure. As nuclear insanity increases to dynamic and dangerous proportions, the silent degradation of our well-being continues. Radioactive contamination is pervading all life on this planet. In fact, the very future of our planet is seriously threatened by it. And yet it's obvious that most human beings are blind to these facts or act as though they are blind to these facts. Well, here are some points for consideration. Did you know that? Number one, it is estimated that at least 30% of all X-rays taken in this country are unnecessary, and that even in many necessary medical examinations, the radiation dosages could be reduced significantly. Did you know that? Number two, there are currently 72 nuclear power plants in operation in the United States alone today. Of course, this is 1979, remember. Each of these is emitting radiation continuously. Did you know that? Number three, nuclear tests and explosions have already produced enough radiation to contaminate the entire globe. And this says nothing of the existing 72 nuclear power plants, which, as I just indicated, are emitting radiation continuously themselves. Did you know that? Number four, radioactive waste materials are the most toxic substances known to mankind. Several hundred radioactive elements are produced in large amounts by each power plant. Did you know that? For example, according to Dr. Helen Caldicott, a woman who I met, one nuclear reactor produces 200 pounds of plutonium per year. And did you know that 1 pound of plutonium, if scattered about, has enough potential to kill each of us 2 times? And we have no storage or de-radioactivation plans. Insanity. That's insanity. Insanity. Did you know that? Number 5, nuclear weapons and nuclear power plants are essentially the same thing. They both use the same materials which perform the same basic functions. And they together form a monster which feeds one society, life, and virtually, I might as well say, existence on this planet. And did you know, number 6, that nuclear power plants are merely highly profitable provisions for boiling large amounts of water? There must be a better way to boil water. Really now. Wouldn't you agree with me? There must be a better way to boil water. But we are not, contrary to how it might appear, helpless. We can join in the fight to put this insanity to rest, for example, and begin or continue the progress of the pursuit of more peaceful and safe means of energy provision. But what, though, of the damages which have perhaps already taken our buddy's victim? What can we do to protect ourselves, and perhaps at least partially decontaminate ourselves right now? Well, Nature has provided for us certain foods, the ingestions of which can, number one, protect us from absorbing radioactive elements into our bodies, or two, absorb and remove from our bodies radioactive elements already present. These foods, I add, are natural and tasty. So it is my purpose here, then, to inform you. If you do not want to be prospective prey to the monster which silently threatens us, to inform you of some of these foods. First, however, I'm going to speak briefly about radiation as it affects human beings. Although many radioactive elements affect us, the two most popular, if that's an appropriate word to use, are Strontium 90 and Iodine 131. Strontium 90 is a dangerous and non-discriminating element. It affects and collects in the skeletal system. Everyone has some in their bones, and it stays there for a lifetime. It and Iodine 131, Iodine 131 being absorbed primarily by the thyroid gland, together are responsible for anemia, bone cancer or sarcoma of the bones, leukemia, and many other cancers. And those exposed to radiation often experience many other symptoms such as burning skin, burning eyes, painful joints, fevers, internal bleeding, and so forth. Perhaps you have heard of somebody, or these kinds of symptoms occurring among the population, maybe among people or people you hear somebody else talk about. So and so has burning skin, burning eyes, painful joints. Just strange fever. So and so had some internal bleeding going on. There could be a connection. Okay, so what's the natural protection? Well, listed here are the foods of which I speak. Eat them in good health. This first group that I am going to talk about are especially for the thyroid and have to do with the absorption of iodine 131, kelp, and other seaweeds. They are very rich in natural iodine, which is easily assimilable. When natural iodine is ingested amply, the need for radioactive iodine 131 absorption into the thyroid is reduced, even eliminated. This is a very good preventative measure. Note, the amount of iodine in iodized salt is not sufficient to carry out this function. Proper dosage if taken in granule or tablet form, kelp that is 1 to 2 teaspoons of granules daily or 5 to 10 tablets daily. And at the time I wrote this, the time of this publication, 1979, the recommended brand name was Schiff kelp. Number 2. With respect to iodine 131 and the thyroid is atomidine. 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 Atomidine is a concentrated iodine preparation in solution form. It, like kelp, reduces or eliminates the need for iodine 131 absorption into the thyroid gland. Atomidine is non-toxic and is water-soluble. Thus it can be mixed into drinks. Its use is highly recommended. Now, when I say mixed into drinks, I just know that somebody watching or listening to this video is going to think, mixed drink, huh? Well, I guess we could just go to the bar and tell the bartender to invent a drink involving atomidine. The first 2 syllables of which are the word atom. And of course we're talking about radioactive iodine 131 here and other nuclear affairs. Therefore, perhaps we should call this mixed drink the nuke. And if we drink enough of them, we will get bombed. Bombed, wasted, smashed, nuked. Well, whatever floats your boat. Recommended dosage. Because of its high concentration, take no more than 1 to 3 drops daily, at least 1 hour prior to eating. If you cannot find etomidine in your drugstore or in your health food store, well, at least back in 1979, you could contact the Heritage Store at 317 Laskin Road, Laskin, P.O. Box 444, Virginia Beach, Virginia 23458. Number 3, licorice root. It has long been known that when one chews a stick of licorice root, the actual root of the licorice plant, well, that person soothes his throat. It is suspected that the root also cleanses the thyroid gland, which contains iodine 131. And now, the second group of foods that I'm going to discuss with you are especially for the skeletal system and have to do with the absorption or elimination of strontium 90. Number 1 is pectin, P-E-C-T-I-N. For radiation, the best pectin comes from raw sunflower seeds. Excuse me. Raw sunflower seed pectin binds to strontium 90 in the intestines and reduces its absorption and deposition in the skeleton. Eat plenty of raw sunflower seeds daily. Fruit pectin is also suspected of being a helpful agent in the reading of radioactive elements. Primarily pectin from apples. Perhaps an apple a day can still keep the doctor away, especially if that doctor is an oncologist. Number 2, amino acid chelated calcium and magnesium supplement. This may be purchased as separate minerals, calcium and magnesium separately, or together as calcium and magnesium together, calcium/magnesium. In either case, make sure that your supplement is of the amino acid chelated variety. Chelated being spelled C-H-E-L-A-T-E-D, chelated. In either case, make sure that your supplement is of the amino acid chelated variety and absolutely never of the dolomite variety. Chelation is a process by which a mineral is chemically bound to an amino acid. This occurs often in nature and is the only form in which the minerals can be absorbed out of the digestive tract for use by the body. Now, subsequent to my having written this, and not within the last 10 or 15 years of my life, but longer ago, subsequent to 1979, when I wrote and circulated this, I went into some drugstores and into some health food stores, other places where I was looking for amino acid chelated vitamins or mineral supplements, and not finding any that I could identify as being amino acid chelated, I would ask, say, the pharmacist at the counter or the manager at the health food store or whatever, the brands that you have here, the mineral supplements that you have here, can you tell me whether they are amino acid chelated? And the response I got in each case, and I can remember there were 4 or 5 times perhaps when I asked this question of people. The answer in every case was, oh well, it doesn't really matter. It's not a major It's not a deal. It's not a thing to be concerned about. There was a time, yes, when non-amino acid chelated mineral supplements were more difficult to digest or actually, assimilate into the body. But nowadays, it doesn't matter, because the non-amino acid chelated mineral supplements, they are just as assimilable. It's all good now. Well, I don't know if that was all true, what I was being told in all those cases. Insofar as the answer was common to all the answerers, perhaps, I had the feeling that, well, maybe this is true. But then again, in every case, the reason I was asking these people is because they didn't have any on their shelves that were of the brands that were being recommended, and what the brands they did have didn't say anywhere on the bottles, on the labels, anything about being amino acid chelated, but these people want to just sell their products. So it makes sense also that even though they were all giving me the same answers, they were all selling products, they were all trying to sell their products. So either what I'm telling you here is now outdated, or those people either didn't know what I was talking about, or they didn't know what they were talking about, or they were just trying to sell a product, and they weren't telling the truth. So I'm not sure, but I'm going to stick with it here. Give it to you the way it is, the way it was, all right, in 1979. Make sure your supplement is of the amino acid chelated variety and absolutely never of the dolomite variety. Also, if the mineral is derived, whether it's amino acid chelated or not, if it's been derived from bones, from animal bones, well then avoid it. Why? Well, think about this for a second. Bones often contain large amounts of strontium 90. Why? Because that's where strontium 90 deposits. We've already said that. And of course, strontium 90 is exactly what we're trying to eliminate. So we want amino acid chelated calcium magnesium mineral supplement that is not derived from animal bones. All right. Both calcium and magnesium bind to strontium 90 and carry it away. Dr. Linus Pauling says that heavy calcium supplementation alone can and will reduce strontium 90 absorption by up to 50%. So that is significant. And recommended brand names, at least at the time of this writing, were, Nature's Plus and Solgar. Number 3, agar-agar, also known as algin. Agar-agar is spelled A-G-A-R, and then the second word A-G-A-R. So good they say it twice. Also known as algin. This is an extract from the giant brown Pacific kelp. It is non-toxic and it is extremely beneficial to the removal of strontium 90 from the body. Agar-agar, or algin, can be used as a thickening agent in the place of gelatin or cornstarch, or mixed lightly into drinks. There we are, mixing drinks again. Agar-agar can also be obtained in capsule form, known as sodium alginate. Sodium alginate, A-L-G-I-N-A-T-E. It is quite an interesting way in which this kelp extract works. It is a non-digestible substance. It never leaves the digestive tract except by going all the way through it, from one end to the other. But it never is absorbed out of the digestive tract into the rest of the body. It is not assimilated in that manner. Therefore, it does not, as we might say, go out and seek strontium 90 particles. Rather, it hides in waiting right there in the intestines, binding to the particles as they pass by in the surrounding capillary beds. The particles of strontium 90 are then carried out of the body by the undigested agar-agar or sodium alginate. And once again, when I'm saying undigested, it doesn't mean that it It clogs your intestines by never leaving. It does. It passes through undigested, and as it's doing so, it absorbs strontium 90 particles that are passing by in nearby capillary beds. That is how it works. If the sodium alginate tablet form is being used, the dosage is 1 to 5 tablets daily. The next category that I have to present you with that I have to present is for radioactive particles in general. Miso. The first is miso, M-I-S-O. Miso, as you may know, is a fermented soy product. What you might not know about it is that it was used effectively by the Japanese survivors of the Hiroshima and the Nagasaki bombings. It contains a substance produced by its yeasts called zybecolin, which attracts, absorbs, and discharges radioactive elements from the body. Miso can be obtained in 2 varieties. Brown miso has a wheat base, white miso has a rice base. Brown miso, the more common variety, is salty to the taste, whereas the white is sweet. Both can be used in soups and sauces, making excellent broths. A word of caution. Be sure that your miso has not been preserved or flavor enhanced with MSG, monosodium glutamate. Number 2, Brewer's yeast. Brewer's yeast is famous for its concentration of the B-complex vitamins and vitamin B5, pantothenic acid. Laboratory studies have shown that the B vitamins and especially pantothenic acid offer excellent protection against radiation. Use Brewer's yeast instead of B vitamin supplements, and make sure it is unadulterated. Sprinkle it onto cereals and soups, and to preserve its freshness, keep it refrigerated. Number 3, vitamin supplements. See, now a few vitamins other than the B complex and pantothenic acid are also very good radiation fighters, and these are vitamins R, C, and E. Vitamin R is also known as rutin, R-U-T-I-N. The proper dosage would be 1 to 200 milligrams daily, and in case of known radiation exposure, take up to 800 milligrams daily. The recommended dosage for this purpose of vitamin C is up to 10 grams daily. And vitamin E is not absolutely necessary to resort to the actual supplement, for vitamin E is found in many fruits and vegetables and in all crude cold-pressed vegetable oils. Vitamin E offers good protection against the harmful effects of X-rays, by the way. So if you've been getting a lot of X-rays, you may then want to actually go ahead and resort to the actual vitamin E supplement. Another is silica vegetal tablets. Silica vegetal tablets. And now the next, alfalfa sprouts. Alfalfa, the father of all foods, according to a book called Sprout for the Love of Every Body by Victoris Kulvinskas, is truly a beautiful entity. Its delicate sprouts are cleansers to our bodies, ridding us not only of radioactive particles, but of other impurities as well. Alfalfa contains a wide variety of nutrients, including a large amount of easily digestible amino acids. Sprout for the love of every body. Now, I want to show you something. Be right back. Wait. I'm back. In 1979, at the time I wrote this, I bought the book called Sprout for the Love of Everybody, and this is it. Sprout for the Love of Everybody by Victoris Kulvinskas. Bought it at East West Books, New York City. I think East West Books was on something like 12th Street or 13th Street at the time. Now it's somewhere on 5th Avenue, I guess. The next is Buckwheat Sprouts. There's another live little goodie known to offer protection against radiation. Buckwheat Sprouts combine nicely with Alfalfa Sprouts. Buckwheat Sprouts. You know, you get buckwheat grain and sprout it. Next is lettuce. Now, I'm not talking about the iceberg variety. Iceberg lettuce being largely just relatively clean water and plant cell walls. And not much else. I'm referring to, if given the choice, use the romaine variety. It's a very popular cleanser. Next, bee pollen, B-E-E, bee pollen. Pollen is extremely nutritious and it effectively soaks up radioactive particles. Bees are our friends. They do work that no other organisms can do. Don't buy pollen powdered or in capsules, but buy it in the shape of the granules, about the size of BBs, its natural form. Here's a nutritional hint. You can make a lettuce-based salad, a romaine-based salad, add plenty of alfalfa and buckwheat sprouts, then sprinkle on some bee pollen and raw sunflower seeds. Well, not only will this be a delicious meal, but hey, you can nuke out the radiation. Next, herbs. There are certain herbs that are known as cleansers. They help to purify the blood, and some of them are especially known for their ridding effects upon radiation in the body, and those are, number 1, Siberian Ginseng. As a matter of fact, Siberian Ginseng has particularly been used in the Orient after exposure to X-rays. So, if you are being exposed to X-rays, in addition to vitamin E supplement, load up on some Siberian Ginseng. Next, chaparral. It's an excellent one. An excellent herbal cleanser, known especially for its ridding effects upon radiation in the body. Chaparral. Another excellent one is burdock root, followed by yellow dock root, red clover, and dandelion root. Now, there are some other herbal cleansers, as I had suggested, but they are not especially noted for their beneficial effects upon radiation, and some of those are sassafras, not to be taken in excess, blue flag, gentian, that's G-E-N-T-I-A-N, and golden seal. And a note about golden seal here. Maximum dosage, 1 capsule or a 1/4 teaspoon 3 times daily, no more than that. Okay? 1 capsule or a 1/4 teaspoon 3 times daily. No more than that. And finally, the herb called horsetail. The herb called horsetail. Not that long flowing thing that's growing out of the back of the animal. Now, there is yet another food substance which I didn't discover through any research of my own to be an active radiation fighter, yet I highly recommend it to the serious person here, and that food substance is wheatgrass. Wheatgrass is merely the sprout of the whole wheat grain left to grow on soil until about 7 or 8 inches tall. Of course, after having been soaked in water for about 12 to 15 hours for the purpose of germination. Once it has grown to that height, it is then trimmed to a height of 3 to 4 inches, and the grass blades boiled for a sweet-tasting tea. It can also be chewed, sucking the juice from it, and then the fiber spit out because it does not digest. And of course, wheatgrass can also be centrifugally juiced. Wheatgrass juice. Allow it to grow again, and then retrim again, grow again, retrim. It's renewable. Why wheatgrass? Okay, aside from being very tasty, it is a powerful cleanser and it is exceptionally nutritious. Nearly all, in fact, essential nutrients are found in wheatgrass, and it is undoubtedly one of nature's best means of protection against radioactive particle bombardment. I therefore wholeheartedly recommend its use. Now there are, on the other hand, excuse me, a few things, the ingestion of which are not recommended. In fact, because these forms of life, hence we may call them foods, act as havens for particular radioactive elements, they should clearly be avoided. Most important, discontinue, if you have concerns along these lines, being discussed here, discontinue the use of all dairy products. Radioactive iodine-131 concentrates in the grasses and other forms of low-level vegetation that cows eat. It is then further concentrated in the animal's tissues, and finally highly concentrated in their milk and in its derivatives. Milk, incidentally, contains the highest amount of iodine-131 of all foods. Therefore, if you want to dramatically reduce your ingestion, your consumption of iodine-131, then it might be a good idea to consider milk and all of its derivatives to be non-foods. So a good plan here for protection against radioactive iodine-131 as well as cleansing it from your body would be something like find a thymidine solution and use it and wipe out from your diet all dairy products, right? Be a good way to go about it. Equally as important is the matter of flesh consumption. Non-flesh eaters have been telling us for years that our human digestive systems are not equipped to handle the many poisons which naturally occur in the dead flesh. Well, now the reasons for being a non-flesh eater are even far greater, right? All flesh is contaminated. All flesh is contaminated, radioactively contaminated. Fact. I mean, as shown previously in the case of cows. Just there's an example. The tissues of all animals are havens for radioactive particles as they are passed along through the food chain. Eggs and other animal products are also affected. The cessation of dairy food and flesh usage may sound a bit tough, but there quite simply are no nutrients found in them that are important enough to our bodies to risk the dangers of the serious effects of long-term radiation ingestion, let alone the many other reasons. Okay? Lots of vegetables should be eaten, but to avoid excess radiation, they should perhaps be peeled. Also, avoid the constant use of underground vegetables. When it comes to water, the advice along these lines in 1979 was to drink store-bottled waters. Do not, however, drink spring waters from New Jersey or Pennsylvania, such as Mount Laurel spring water. To generalize, no foods at all from the states of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or New York should be eaten. Well, I don't know about that now. Perhaps now the case would be, do not eat any foods at all from anywhere on Earth. Except for, let's say, like sprouts, kelp, seaweeds, microalgae, you know, the basics, wheatgrass, peeled vegetables, organically grown. Now true, all these suggestions pertaining to contaminated foods may be difficult to diligently adhere to, but perhaps they can give the person, you, an idea of some nutritional pathways to pursue for the purposes under investigation here. Of greatest significance is the urgency of the matter. I mean, just do something about it now. Whether it simply be cutting down on the use of dairy and meat products, or commencing the consumption of the listed natural radiation fighters here, or just a few of them, just get started now. Once the urgency is realized and the beginning steps are taken, then the nutritional transitions will slowly unfold. Just get started with something and do about it now. And spread the word to others, please, that they too may know that something must and can be done about the situation. But 2 notes about that, please. In spreading the word to others, you know, the information here, don't copy this script, print it out, and start selling it. The copyright is mine, and I'm not selling it. This information is free. So pass it on as such, okay? So that we can all profit from it. If we follow the advice given, we can all profit from it in the way of increased health, physical health, okay? And the other thing I wanted to say about this was letting people know that something must and can be done. Now, when you let people know that something must be done, they sometimes say things like, well, yeah, but we all have to die someday of something, you know. Something's going to kill us, right? You know, the kinds of talk I'm getting at here. Or, well, yeah, if the one thing doesn't kill you, the other thing will. Responses like that, talk like that. Or, yeah, well, it seems like just damn near anything kills you these days, so what are you worried about? You got to go somehow. That kind of talk, that kind of talk boils down to what's called fatalism. I might have addressed that issue in a previous video here, I'm not sure. I know I made one about that, about fatalism. I'm pretty sure I did. I don't know if I posted it. I don't know if I actually ever posted it here. But that kind of talk falls into the general category of fatalism, or the root word being fate. Okay? Fatal. Fate, having to do with fate. And it's usually negative fatalism, as expressed in, well, we're all going to have to die somehow. So the idea with this kind of fatalism talk is, why try to do anything to maintain good health? In other words, you might as well say, why not do everything we possibly can to destroy our health? Which is absurd when looked at that way. But that is another way to say, to state the fatalistic idea. Why not just do everything we possibly can to destroy our good health and kill ourselves off as rapidly as possible? Is another way to state the same thing. So I'm letting you know that something must be done about this. If you have any concerns about it at all, then you must do something. Okay? Something must be done if you have any concerns about your health. All right? And something can be done. There's no need to resort to fatalistic thinking about this. I mean, why resort to fatalistic thinking right at the moment you're being told that something can be done? So when you pass this information to others, bear this kind of response to their fatalistic response in mind, or give them no response whatsoever if they respond that way. Just be aware that some people will talk like that when you talk to them about this. Now, in closing, I want to tell you a couple of things that you can do with respect to X-rays. If I can find it. Protecting yourself with respect to X-rays. Keep records of your X-rays, the type of X-ray, its purpose, the name of the dentist or physician, the date and the location of the X-ray facility. Keep records. Ask your doctor or dentist to explain why the X-ray is needed. And that should be part of your record, the purpose of the X-ray. Ask if it is possible to take previous X-rays with you when you are being referred to a specialist or when you are changing doctors. Question any routine, so-called routine X-rays for kids. Have a physical exam and a dental checkup with necessary X-rays before a planned pregnancy. And non-urgent, that is elective, abdominal X-rays should be done during the first 14 days of a menstrual cycle to avoid possible radiation during the early stages of a pregnancy. If you are already pregnant, don't submit to a pelvic X-ray unless you absolutely have to. If a chest X-ray is required for employment purposes, ask if a tuberculin skin test can be substituted. Not substituted for your employment, but substituted for the chest X-ray. Don't submit to X-rays at every dental checkup, unless the dentist says you have a particular problem and he wants to get a closer look. Not just a closer look at your general mouth as part of the checkup. Make the dentist do the checkup without the X-rays, and if there is a particular problem there, then take a picture of it. And request lead shields or aprons for yourself or for your children every time an X-ray is done. And that's it. Remember what I said. Remember what I said. This video should be considered sister to the other video about nourishment. 50% of nourishment is how food is eaten. How it is eaten and the mental, the tools of mentalism applied during that specific way to eat the food. That's half the trick with nourishment right there. Apply the same ideology to this material. Intend when you eat or ingest these things, if you follow any part of this program just laid out here for this purpose that it has been laid out, intend those food items to do that job, and apply the other factors that are laid out in the nourishment video, all toward this end, okay? Create thought forms to go with the foods, to help the foods do what they're supposed to do. Use your will, use your visualization, use all the tools, okay? Put in that other 50%. That is what I may call the esoteric or occult side of the matter. All right? There you have it. Now, go out and have a nuke. Go to the bar and have a nuke. Thanks for your attention. Be well. Oh yeah. One last statement. Eat in good health and live a long life.